to me, my X-Men. Welcome to the chatter after we are here live. I'm Mike Nito, your host for the evening. We're talking X-Men 97. If you haven't been caught up on the show, we're probably going to spoil the heck out of it. So now
it's
might
gonna
be a
happen.
good time for you to leave. Subscribe, bookmark this video, put it to in your watch later section, and you're good.
Share with your family and friends, everybody.
Seriously,
Or don't share.
we love talking. Or no, we're not.
If you're trying
that.
to avoid spoilers. Brandon just lost 500 subscribers.
The viewership went down because Brandon said so. No, but I'm Mike. Joining me, of course, is Brandon, co-host. Bro, you binge watched this thing in like a day and a half.
Maybe.
What was that experience like?
It was great. It's funny that you mentioned that by letting everyone in the world know that I have no time for life. But no, it was great because, as you know, in our private chatter, right, I have been very, very distant for anything Marvel for the last, I want to say since Endgame, but for a very long while. So not that this is Marvel MCU or whatever it is that I've been stale with, but it wasn't something that I was gonna run into and just say, hey, I need to watch X-Men 97. I need to do this. But of course, all the good buzz and the idea that interesting conversation among us was rising, right? The chatter was rising about how interesting ideas were played around with the show. I agreed that we had to jump into this and watch it. So I'm very happy to have watched it because I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was great. It was emotional. It didn't require any prior knowledge of anything because I know my relationship with the original X-Men 97 show wasn't that I was a kid. I knew that it existed, but a lot of the things and themes of that show I never got because I was a kid. And this is definitely a show that was really ahead of their time. And it was funny because I don't think it was meant for kids like me around that year. I mean, it was 97. I was 9 years old. It wasn't meant for that 9-year-old kid in Puerto Rico looking for cartoons to watch on Saturday. It was meant for the teenagers that were reading or have been reading X-Men for years. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like that was really the audience for that show. I wasn't the audience for that show. But having watched this, I can see how great the source material was and is, and I really enjoyed it. I like what they did with all the characters. I like how they made it feel like this has always been a part of the great multiverse of Marvel. They did a great job doing that, apart from the fact it appealed to my childhood because it gave reference to all the other great Marvel shows that I grew up with that I actually got that I wasn't too young to understand. So X-Men 97 has been great, and I can't wait to dig deep. And you will understand why One for All is part of this show, because there's something there.
Oh man, My Hero Academia ends in like 5 chapters, and that's a whole other can of worms we'll unpack very soon.
Shout out to Star and Stripe.
Shout out to the GOAT, Star and Stripe. America, baby, democracy. I've never been more patriotic than Star and Stripe.
We don't do that for Star and Stripe.
Isn't that Attack on Titan?
Yeah,
it's a reflex at this point. Shinzo Sasage, I know. I do it in my sleep.
Okay. Like it mirrors everything that happened with Irwin. It breaks everyone's hearts.
Seriously, my soldiers never yield. Much like Magneto's X-Men. We'll get into that in a second. Cliff, happy to have you. Happy to talk some X-Men, the animated series. Did you grow up watching that original show? And if so, how did that affect your experience with X-Men 97?
So I did not grow up watching the show. It's very similar to a lot of, the Spider-Man animated series, Iron Man and Hulk and all of those things. Like I've seen episodes or tidbits, but I've never actually grew up watching a full episode. Like I grew up with what was X-Men 2000, whatever that one was, where they were all like teenagers in high school. That's the one that
Evolution.
Thank you.
By the way, that's fire too. I'm just saying.
It is. Like I actually had I had the VHS tape for I forgot how many episodes it had for that thing, but that's kind of my interpretation of the X-Men, that and the Fox movies and all that stuff. So yeah, so for me, this is kind of like a brand new watch. This is something where like I know what came before, like I know what exists, but I don't know the full context, nor do I know the full stories that happened before. So this is just me coming brand new into something, just watching character, action, fun animation, etc., just unfold in front of me. You know, and Brandon had mentioned it earlier. Like myself as well, I've also been kind of unfocused with the MCU currently. And watching X-Men 97, I was just like, oh, this, I needed this. This is the thing that kind of just, you know, it put some pep back in my step, and it's just like, okay, this is what I needed from Marvel, just as a whole, I think, in general, at the moment. So yeah, to bring it back full circle, it's just, I didn't grow up watching this, but I'm happy I got X-Men 97 because this is the first, I want to say animated shows, I feel like, in terms of like American comic book animation and all that stuff. Like it's the first show since like Young Justice where I was just like, I'm kind of obsessed with this. Like I need to know more. I want to know more. I just like give me season 2 6 months from now. Like I don't care. Like I will be there. I'm ready for whatever happens next. You know, and yes, the most it's the like I haven't felt this way about like a Marvel project. I think probably since Infinity War. Honestly, like I just like I get goosebumps thinking about this show because it's just like this is just what I want. This is the kind of storytelling I really appreciate from comic books and just superhero lore altogether. So I'm very excited to just talk about this show.
So I guess what you're saying is that all you're waiting for is a good story.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think we should address the elephant in the room. This is not an MCU property. This is not an MCU story. This exists outside of continuity, in a continuity that I'm very familiar with. Like I wasn't hardcore into X-Men the animated series, but I did love Spider-Man the animated series. Um, exactly, Spider-Man, right? Iconic, radioactive Spider-Man. But going back into this universe was such a delight. I loved hearing those voices, hearing that iconic music. I feel like Marvel ruined it by using it in the MCU. I think it would have been a little bit harder if I didn't hear it in Multiverse of Madness and Miss Marvel. But that X-Men theme will forever be iconic. I love that we just jump right into it, right? And I love how accessible that this show is, where it's steeped in history of the original show. Like if you were familiar with that show, you're going to eat it up. But also, if you've never seen the X-Men before, the pitch is Xavier's gone, what now? That's the pitch for the season. And we just see it unfold without having to have prior knowledge. At least if you're familiar, like you were saying, Cliff, if you watched one X-Men movie, you've pretty much got it. You know the names, you know the characters, you're good. You can just jump in and go. And so I think one thing that stood out to me specifically was them kind of hitting us very hard in that first episode of this is classic X-Men. And for those of you who aren't familiar with classic X-Men, this is what the X-Men are supposed to be like. This is what Cyclops is supposed to be like and what he's supposed to feel like, right? That Captain America-like leader of his team, as opposed to being a pushover.
Yes.
Like, it's genuinely baffling from that first episode. I was just like, oh, this is this guy somebody y'all are talking about.
Yes. And it's great. And it's crazy because I am not a Marvel comic book reader. I don't have the pedigree to say that I am that. But what I've known from people talking about it, and because I read articles and stuff, Cyclops is a big deal in the comics. Like, he's a beloved character in the comics, warts and all, right? And the idea that everybody was pleased, like the zeitgeist, the people on Twitter would be like, we're all just raising their arms in happiness. The fact that Cyclops is getting his due, I think it was great. But I'm glad that you mentioned that also, Mike, because it's the showrunners and writers understood that the zeitgeist, everybody knows in one way, shape, or form who are the X-Men. Like they didn't take it for granted. They embraced the fact that these characters have been in everybody's lives in one way, shape, or form. But they didn't use it in a way to hold us hostage as they do the story. They allowed us to have fun with the fact that these are characters that we can connect with, that we know, while also being faithful to what they tried to represent and the idea they tried to argue. So that first episode was a blast. And I love how it mirrors, because this I do know. I love how much it mirrors the first episode of the original X-Men 97 series. Because literally Roberto da Costa takes the role of Jubilee. That's really what's happening throughout the series. So I like all those parallels because it was a nod, but also understanding the story works so well right there. We can do it again, because the whole thing about the X-Men and introducing these new characters is that we're all lost at some point in our lives. And we just need someone to find us and help us.
Yeah, for sure. Pulling the curtain back a little bit, I'm entering this podcast having just talked to the directors of X-Men 97 like 10 minutes ago. That interview is not up yet. I'm not going to spoil all of it, but one thing that they did mention was that like in the show Bible of X-Men 97 is pretty much what Brandon just said, of like reintroducing the world to the X-Men proper and making you cry every single week. Which from episode 5 on, I was crying every single week.
Buddy.
So
it was powerful.
I've never.
Cliff, I'm going to toss this over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thing of like these X-Men characters we have been familiar with, but like the gut punch week after week, episode after episode, pretty much from the beginning. Like the moment Storm loses her powers in like what, episode 2, 3, whatever that was, hits hard.
It's episode 2, yeah. It happens very early. I love that from the get-go, they don't feel they need to hold back. I don't know how much the era that we live in plays into it, but I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff that maybe the original showrunners couldn't do explicitly in the original show that definitely they're doing now, because there's a lot of more. I don't want to use this word. I'm not going to use the word tolerance, because that's not the word we're going to use in the show.
Doesn't that mean extinction according to the finale?
Yeah. So there's a lot more understanding of what people of different ages can withstand seeing and understanding. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot more viscerous. It's a lot more, when it comes to the violence and gore, it's a lot more graphic. In the conversations, it's more adults having conversations as opposed to.
It feels a little more honest almost.
Yeah, correct. Which maybe they couldn't do back in the day, because we know there was a lot more restrictions of what you could do. And this is a Saturday child show, like kids show. You know what I mean? Or at least that's how.
Oh, trust me. When we do Days of Future Past in the original series, that hits you like a truck. So when we do Days of Future Past in the original series, it hits almost as hard as this show does. So like they were not afraid to go there. But this one definitely has the liberty of like, yeah, we can show Wolverine stab people now. So it gets a little bit more graphic and real than they could. But those themes definitely were baked into the show's DNA, which is why I think it works so well.
So now I have to go back. I have to go back and watch it then. I have to.
But I'm very excited to go back and watch it. That is the plan after this season.
See, and that's the whole point, right? Like, this is how you know that this show is so good. That we want more, but we also looking for more going back. And I think that's a lot of what we miss nowadays with superhero TV or content, is that people make it seem like this next Superman film that's coming out, it's going to be the one and only Superman film. No, Superman's been around forever. You want to be able to have people fall in love with that character and then going to look for every single content that's out there of that character, no matter the generation, no matter the age. And I love how this show is doing that.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this is a prime example of, I want to say legacy done right, but I feel like that's not exact almost, because I feel like honoring legacy, I should say, feels a little
Yes.
bit better
Yeah.
for that.
Yes.
Because you know, we're in that age of where a bunch of shows that were popular from, you know, our childhood, our teenage years, and before that, you know, 90s, 80s, 70s, et cetera, et cetera. So many of them are getting reboots, or so many of them are getting like 30-year, 40-year reunions. You know, I'm looking at you, Power Rangers. Y'all did that anniversary thing on Netflix last year. This is why I'm saying it. But yeah, like shows are getting all these things and whatnot, and it doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, we are actually here because there's story to tell, but also we need to keep this in the zeitgeist and just be like, hey, this is why people love these characters. This is why people love this specific interpretation, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think X-Men 97 is doing that perfectly, whereas a lot of other things are just like, hey, remember this group? Remember whatever sitcom you enjoyed? Well, we're bringing them all together for another continuation. And then that gets canceled like a season or two later. It's like,
Yeah.
should I be invested in this? Whereas with X-Men 97, it's just like, now I want to go back. I want to watch it all again. I want to see what did I miss? What can I learn more of? Et cetera, et cetera. Do I want to actually go read X-Men comics now and like dive into other interpretations, see more of Scott Summers, see more of Nightcrawler, see what Gambit has been up to in the comics, see what Rogue has been up to? Like, it gets you more excited to just be explorative and whatnot. And I feel like that's, to me, that's always seemed to be the goal, at least when it comes to storytelling and just in all its formats, whether it's comics, movies, TV, music, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think X-Men 97 is like the prime example of like, yeah, this is how you can do it. This is how successful it can be. And this is how successful it can be on a weekly basis as well. You don't have to give us all of it at once. You want us to stay around? Give us weekly things and make sure it's worth our time.
It also built the hype though, because can you imagine if they just dropped it all and like somebody would have binged it? Like probably one out of the three of us here would have binged it. And the other two would have been like, I'll get to it when I get to it. But like having that build up, right, week after week after week, because this is a show, when it was announced, it's like, cool, I liked the X-Men. It felt, again, though, like one of those cash grabs, like, oh, instead of just making a new X-Men show, we're going to go and get the old thing that everybody likes because that's all we do. But they were able to have those modern influences, right? The anime influences, the comic book influence. One thing I love about X-Men the Animated Series, which is why I'm so excited for you guys to go back and watch it. It's a little dated, but it's still great. That show is through and through inspired by the comic books. Like they adapt comic book arcs. Everything that happened in this show, in X-Men 97, for the most part, is a comic book storyline that they took. The Trial of Magneto is a comic book storyline. Right. It's from those classic X-Men days. So, and that's one thing that I appreciate about this franchise of, hey, like you guys were saying, you watch the show, you want to learn more, go read Days of Future Past. It's very similar to how they adapted it in the like 3-episode special, but it makes you like, hey, I know the storyline. I kind of want to see how they do it here, as opposed to something like Batman the Animated Series, which I love, but that's very much its own distinct version of Batman.
Right.
And no other version of Batman will ever quite feel like Batman the Animated Series. Whereas X-Men 97, from the ground up, is steeped in comic books. So if you want to learn more or find more adventures of these characters, you can just go back to the comics and see the storyline where Storm loses her powers and has to fight to get them back. Or see Wolverine get the adamantium ripped out of his skeleton by Magneto. Right? Like, all of these things happen. Which I think is something that Cliff and I have been clamoring for. Like, hey, if you're going to do these comic book animated shows, why don't you just do Scott Snyder's Batman run? Just make that the Batman show. Why don't you just do the Joshua Williamson Flash run and make that a 20 episode miniseries, you know?
Just that
So-
first volume, Lightning Strikes Twice. It is so good.
I'm gonna read Flash one of these days.
See, I would have been
That's on the
okay
list.
if the movie did that, but then we had to. Okay, different podcast.
We all would have, man. We all would have.
I still haven't seen that movie, and I feel very happy to not have. Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Just like
You're not missing out.
watching
I'm gonna tell you right now, you're better off watching the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie, the animated one, which is pretty fun.
Banger though. That movie's great.
It is. It's great.
It's great. It's great.
You know, let me not be surprised. Let me. I'm gonna give animated movies the same treatment as live action. That if that's the best Flash movie, great. I'm happy.
Oh, trust me, I'm the type of guy that does it. I see things the same thing. You are better off watching that one. So back to X-Men. Yeah, this I love that you mentioned how they do the comic book arcs, because that just puts a smile on my face, because I've always been a defender of the essence of characters and understanding the characters and finding fresh ways to tell the stories that are in the books that people already love. That's the best way to do these animated shows and films. I hope that with the success of X-Men 97, it kind of sparks the imagination of writers for the MCU, for the movies, because it's like anything. The blueprint is right there. Like, the reason this worked, it's not because people already loved the previous show, because this could have been a disaster. It could have been. This type of property, it either flopped really hard or it was going to be amazing. There was no intermediate. There's no middle ground. This is either going to flop really hard or it's going to be great. And it was great because they learned all the right lessons from the previous, especially based on what you're saying. And I want to go watch it, because if it is like you're saying, I know I'm going to love it because I enjoyed this so much, because everything is a comic book and so great. But it's like, I really hope that they learn these lessons and actually apply them to the movies moving forward. Not just the X-Men movies, because it's simple. This season was great because they told great stories. Was the action amazing and modernized?
Gorgeous.
Yes. Like, the action 100% felt like you're watching, like anime or whatever, which is great, it's the high end of animated action in my book. And probably a lot of people's. But you cared about these characters. You really cared about what they had to say. You felt their struggles. They felt real. And you can't make that up. That's just great writing. And that's what made this show work. Because you can't say it was a spectacle, because it's not about the CGI and stuff, bro. It's not about the budget. It's the characters. Like, I felt so connected to Jean Grey and her struggle of becoming a mother in this world that hates mutants, or that would see mutants as the other. And Aurora, which the most interesting and powerful thing is that Aurora, being a powerful Black woman in America in 97, you know what I mean? It's she faces adversity in a multitude of fashions, you know what I mean? But she's able to understand the struggles of Jean Grey. And then after having an opening up about the idea of being human, she gets hit with reality in the face of a rifle and a radiation gun. But that's the beauty of storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, they take all these fantastic elements and all they do is influence the emotional struggle that we're seeing, or journey that these characters are taking and making. You know what I mean? Because for a while I thought, we all knew that Storm was going to get her groove back. Like, we knew that was going to happen. But the process is so...
Nice reference, too. If anybody got it.
It needed to happen. But yeah, man, it's like, it just needed to... It needed... I love those things. Like, to me, those are the best stories. Like, Because at the end of the day, if you were to take away all the X-Men stuff, you still have a great X-Men story, because the X-Men stories were never about the X-Men stuff. They were just the canvas in which they tell these human stories of acceptance, of understanding, of connection, which is really what the X-Men has always been about.
And that's why I love them. I I realize as time has gone on, I don't necessarily want superhero things in my superhero stories. As weird as that sounds, I love that we can tell real human emotional stories within that superhero space, right?
Yeah.
We have a comment here. Superhero soap opera. Exactly. That's why I love the X-Men.
Days
That's
of
why I
our
love the
X-Men.
story Bible. It's
Mhm. Sorry, go ahead,
But
Mike. You're good. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say,
no, I
but
was just
that's the
gonna say
thing.
that's
Like,
why I love. That's why I love
mm,
that. I think we're desynced, so there's a slight delay. I'm sorry, but that's why I love the fact that they in the story Bible said that it's going to make you cry every episode every week. X-Men, have you cried today? Was their pitch, and it's like whether that's because Gambit or whether that's because Scott having to say goodbye to his son and the whole thing with Jean and the clone, how that affects him. Not only how that affects Madeline and Jean, but also how that affects Scott. And I think they played with all of that very well. Go ahead, Cliff.
yeah, because the funny thing is, because just that comment alone, like we all make jokes about, oh, it's a super heroic soap opera. But I'm like, I think at this point in my life, just spending time reading a lot and watching a lot. As y'all both know, I'm doing that whole Superman deep dive and whatnot. But like to me, that's always felt like the core of just comic book lore. It's just like it's the people outside your window thing.
Right.
Like I'm currently reading 2004 She-Hulk by Dan Slott, and so far the majority of that run is just Jennifer Walters constantly um, coming to bat with like, hey, She-Hulk is not the best thing about me. This is just an added portion of who I am. And
But
when I
that
look at
goes into
X-Men
Stanley's
97, yeah,
original pitch, though, of like
mm,
Marvel is the world outside your window. That's how he would always pitch
mm,
it. And so,
mm.
yeah, that's coming to life
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And when I look at like just the full landscape of just comic book movies, shows, and whatnot, I'm just like, yeah, it really all is just like people outside your window, and like even with characters like Superman, like I get it, he's an alien, but also he's an immigrant. He's constantly just trying to find ways to fit in because he himself also has this this thing about him that can, to a lot of people, like, sure, yes, it can cause harm, but at the same time it's a uniqueness about him, but at the same time it also isn't the main attractive point about him. Like it's that cherry on top. It's that one little extra layer that makes these characters interesting. So, Mike, when you mention like I don't want superhero stuff in my stories, it's like, yes, like you're right. The like the cape and cow stuff is just the extra bits behind it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
in X-Men 97, like it's and like we're talking about, it's all of these extra pieces and whatnot. But I think it's a great exploration of like, hey, here are people. Everyone has a different life, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone has a different mutation or a different quirk, if we will, if to keep it, My Hero related. But we also see the different perspectives of like, hey, some people are embracing these parts about themselves. Some people, because of their past experiences, see this part of themselves as diabolical, as destructive, as like, oh, I am an other because of this thing. Like I didn't ask for it. It's just something that's a part of me. And now I'm just trying to figure out the best way to live my life about, like how to go about that. And I think X-Men 97 does that really well with multiple characters. And I don't know how they did it because I'm just like, it's like 10 characters in one episode. I'm just like, I low key understand every single person that's on here. Like, sure, we can expand it more,
Yes.
but I get it.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
It's the writing,
I
bro.
understand.
And it's funny,
Mhm.
and you mentioned, and we've now, I think a great way of closing this theme of I don't want superhero stuff in my superhero. I want the real stuff, the human stuff, right? That because of the human element, of story and understanding and connection and the human experience behind the characters, that's the reason why we cried when Gambit sacrificed himself. That is the reason. This is a man that is in love with a woman he can't kiss. He's in love with a woman that he can't hold. He's in love with a woman that he can't make love to without possibly dying. But he is in love with this woman.
Worth it.
And he's accepted the love that he can give her. You know what I mean? He's accepted it. Yeah. Despite his past, he understands that she loves him, but understands that he's unable to give him things. And then when the whole triangle with Magneto is revealed, is put up front, and everybody's teasing him about it, but he knows what's going on. He's not stupid. I mean, he was a great thief, so he knows how to find stuff out. You know what I mean? He finds out what she's going through. She finally tells him the truth. He accepts her decision. He's not happy about it. He's not supposed to be. But at the end of the day, when push came to shove, he was still a guy that loved a girl and was going to do right by the girl no matter what.
So, and Mike, you know what you're saying?
And
it's just La La Land.
Boom.
Damn it.
Wrap it up, everybody.
We're done. We've done it. Shatter After Unlimited.
Over.
Just for you. Damn it. So Sebastian, Gambit is there in the heat of the moment, and he sees Magneto doing his thing. He sees Magneto saying, "Stay back, protect Rogue," keeping Rogue away. So Remy's understanding that he's just not a villain anymore. He's actually someone that cares. Remy's seeing the humanity in Magneto. That's when he goes, "Nah, bro. I'm doing this." And he does the thing.
Yeah.
And he does it with a smile on his face. His sacrifice wouldn't have broken the hearts of all of Twitter. We can call it X now because we're talking about X-Men, right? No. It broke the heart of all of Twitter because of the entire emotional journey that we were with him ever since Magneto and Rogue's situation began. You see what I'm saying? Because we saw the effect on him.
Not just that, the previous 3 seasons of the other show, too. Compounding on top of that.
Yeah.
Crushes you.
This is the twisted version. This is what I imagine Wolverine wants to experience. Like, this is the love triangle that Wolverine has in his head.
And you know what's crazy, bro? The whole thing of Wolverine and Jean Grey, like, I'm going back to the movies. Because again, I can't go back to the show because it's not in my brain. But that too, bro.
Before we get too deep into the Wolverine love triangle of it all, I did want to address this comment because I thought it was important before we stray too far. With Marvel, Peter Parker is the one we care about, not necessarily Spider-Man. And with DC, I feel like Batman is who we're there for, and Bruce is a tool to make Batman more efficient. The superior hero, I agree. I will just be the first one to point out, though, that Bruce Wayne will go out of his way to tell you that Bruce Wayne died in the crime alley, and Batman has been the only person to exist ever since then. So you're not wrong in that line of thinking. But for Batman specifically, I think that's the entire point for him, right?
What is up, Stormper?
What up, Swiper?
Swiper, no swiping. No, but he's not wrong. That's actually, in a way, that is the greatest dichotomy between Marvel and DC. Because Marvel, it's all about the human elements or the human characters that become that are able to become, you know what I mean, these great heroes or villains or whatever. And DC is all about that alter ego. And sometimes it gets to a point where the human side doesn't matter unless it's a specific arc that has to do with their human side. Everything has to do with the mask, the cowl, what they become. So, but even then, DC does find ways to balance those things. But it's interesting because I go back to the Flash, not the movie, the Flash, because everybody talks about Barry Allen. Everybody talks about their favorite Flash being
Wally.
I cannot believe I'm Wally West. And it's funny because
The
everybody talks about Wally
disrespect,
West.
man.
Hey, you're going to understand what I'm trying to say. It's been a while. I've been out of the game. The reason people love Wally West is because he's the fastest Flash, right? Because of the abilities that he has, because of the amazing things that he can do that other Flashes have never been able to do, right? And also his connections with other superheroes like the Teen Titans and all that. I love Barry Allen because he's a scientist and he's a hero that just happened to be struck by lightning because of the person that who he is. Him being the Flash is the extra. It's funny. I have a Marvel heart that's why he liked this, but the DC's favorite superhero. But yeah, it's I find that interesting because he does make a good point. And I think we see that a lot also in this show because you can't really tell Cyclops from Scott Summers. They're one and the same. Scott will always be Scott. I love the idea that they always say their names even in the battlefield. Most of the times, they don't use code names.
Yeah.
So
I think that also might just be benefit of, by this point, it's like, we know who these X-Men are. We know who the mutants are. So why even waste time? You know?
Yeah.
But that's also an added benefit because of what came prior as well. But I agree with what you're saying.
this is fair.
Yeah.
I don't blame
Wally,
you. That is truth.
As the resident Wally West stan, not to make this a Flash debate, but I will argue that I care about Wally as a character and his relationships with the other characters and his wife and his kids, not because he's faster than Barry.
But a lot of people
one
talk
day.
about that when they talk about Wally. You know what I mean?
That might be an interesting conversation because I haven't read comics with Wally nor Barry, so I'm just like I just know Wally from Young Justice. That's about it. So like my understanding of him as a full, him and Barry as a full-fledged characters is only Young Justice and Arrowverse Flash.
It's because a lot of modern Barry Allen also takes some aspects of Wally West. Like if you watch Justice League, the animated series, right? Justice League Unlimited. Why does Wally have Barry's job? You know, they kind of bleed and become an amalgamation of each other, where it's like, to the untrained eye, they're just the Flash. Whether he goes by Barry or Wally, that's just the Flash, which is the thing that really bugs me because like they are two different people with two different stories, and so keep them separate. But even Ezra Miller, his name is Barry. He has characteristics of Wally. Why? To answer this question, I find myself calling them by their actual names for the most part. I find myself saying Logan. I find myself saying Dick when we're talking about Robin, Nightwing. Barry when we're talking about the Flash. I default to Cal for some reason when I talk about Superman. I don't know why.
Same. It's either Cal or Soups. I'm like, all right, so Soups comes in and just does his thing. Or like, I've never called this man Clark, even though that's his full name. But yeah, I usually use their just regular names.
Yeah. So
we all cried in the event of Genosha. What happened in Genosha, the cataclysm of Genosha. I said this to Mike, and I was very surprised that he didn't catch it. I'm very surprised that I haven't seen anybody anybody mention this on Twitter. It is dope. Yes, do it. We
It's
support
a
you.
dope name. Like, what's up, Cal?
Dope
Like,
name,
you talked to
bro.
Cal recently? Like,
And
a
it's
great
funny
name.
because almost all of his villains call him Cal, and it's damn.
Except for Lex Luthor. That's the only one.
This
I'll stop
escalated
calling
very
him.
quickly.
Wait, is that
I
his
wanna
name?
pin
Wait,
the-
what did I miss?
No, it's Clark. His name- don't
Oh, right, okay.
translate.
I got you. Yeah. Actually,
If I
great.
could
Yeah.
pin that to the
Mhm.
top of the chat, man, I would.
That's gonna happen.
Hmm.
So I'm very
No,
surprised that
but
nobody mentioned it.
Genosha.
Did you guys catch? So here's one of those things that I loved about this show. They found very interesting ways of making everybody understand that this is part of the multiverse of the MCU. And one of the ways they did it, which I don't know if there's any instances of this in the old series. I don't know if it was intentional. But it happened here and I caught it, and I'm very surprised that I caught it. I was not even expecting to see it. Did you guys know that you can see the Watcher over the skies of Genosha before the cataclysm occurs?
No, I did not know this.
So there's a shot when before the party and everything starts where all you see is stars, and into the background of the stars you
It's
see
just
the
Jeffrey
figure
Wright.
of the Watcher.
Okay. Just
And it's
Commissioner Gordon just
funny
in the
and it's
back.
interesting because remember, when do we see the Watcher always? On absolute moments of time.
This is not an official still, but this is the image Brandon sent to me. And
Yes.
you can see.
You see the
It
Watcher.
kind of looks like Martian Manhunter a little bit.
he
Don't cross the
does.
streams.
I know,
Do
it's
not
me.
cross
I'm the
the
DC head. Every time I see a bald guy in like a flap.
Is that
I'm
you,
just like,
John?
it's Martian. Right.
Is that you, John? No, but yeah, bro, like the Watcher there to me was like, yo, these guys. And like I was very surprised when I saw him there, and that was amazing. But then also,
Yeah.
Magic looks like Magic looks in the MCU. Especially like the Doctor Strange kind of stuff. It's the same art style as that. Those little things make me very happy.
Oh, I'm literally sitting here typing in Magic MCU, thinking it's a character because I know it's the character from New York.
Oh, not that,
Like,
not
wait,
that
did I miss
character.
that?
But
Yeah,
as in the way
it was just my
Magic was in this
misconception.
show, by the way, but yeah,
Yes.
no,
Hmm.
not Magic.
Oh, that's
the
another
character.
conversation. That's another topic that I want to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts about it. But yeah, Mike, you got something?
I was just gonna add. I did talking to Jake a little bit earlier today about that. Right, I did ask him that question you had of like the MCU influences like being imprinted on this nostalgic property, and he's just like, yeah, because we wanted to. He's like, it'd be dope to have the Watcher there. That's why they did it. There was no like Marvel said do this. He's just like,
Yes. See,
it's a
that's the
canon
way it's
event,
done.
and Cable even says like, I try to change it and I can't. It's like, yeah, because the Watcher was there because it's supposed to happen. That's why that
Yes.
scene. That's why the Dora Milaje being with Black Panther, right? They're like that because we wanted to. That's what they look like. It was an easy costume design to make, and so they just did the MCU thing. It's not like, oh, Kevin Feige's ruling with an iron fist of you have to make it tie in. They're just like, no, we did it because it makes sense and it's dope and we're fans.
Because they just wanted to.
And then all the analysis, and then Beast goes, well, these mod report goes talk about absolute moments in time. It's like Doctor Strange. Whoa, buddy. Ting. Like those little things are just great. That puts a smile on my face. But yeah,
I
the
also
Watcher's there,
love
and it's
the
fire.
buildings, the buildings of this universe, right? Because again, I am very well versed in this universe. I watched Hulk, I watched Iron Man, watched a little bit of Doctor Strange. I loved Spider-Man. So seeing all of those characters come back, but seeing like Tony and Steve next to each other, it's like, oh my god, are they forming the Avengers in this universe? That'd be crazy. And I'm not saying I need them to like make a Avengers show set in this timeline.
Yes,
But it's like,
Wait,
we never saw the Avengers. They never did that.
No. The first
And
Avengers
I just
animated
assumed
show that we
why.
have is the one from the 2000s. which Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Yeah.
which is also a
Yep.
great show. But that's my point of like
Yes.
me being a fan of this verse, right? Seeing Mary Jane made me cry.
Yo.
Because if you know what happens to Mary Jane, it's just like,
Yes.
oh my god,
Mhm.
and they can
you
and they
think
can
she got, like,
talking to me
you
today.
walking
Like,
the multiverse,
do you think this
right?
takes place before or after the ending?
I'm
of
going
the
to assume
show?
after.
I would hope so, because
I have the answer.
you.
Okay, is this spoiler territory or like for?
I mean,
or,
this is a spoiler cast.
It's fine.
Just say it,
I
bro.
mean, it's.
okay.
I'm spoiling Spider-Man the animated series. If you haven't watched a 30-year-old Spider-Man cartoon,
You're
go
30
watch
years
it. It's on
late.
Disney Plus.
I mean, I am 30 years late,
So
but
is
I
this
will.
before or after?
It's after, and they're just like, yeah, Peter did it. He figured it out. And it's like, hell yes.
Yes.
he saved Mary
Shout out to
Jane.
my
Thank
boy
God.
Peter.
That cliffhanger wrecked my childhood, man.
Oh, so you made it a point to ask the question. So you were not the only one that felt wrecked. Damn, bro.
I had to, and he was just like, "Oh no," he's like, "Peter figured it out." He's like, "Will we tell you how? Maybe, maybe not, but he figured it out. Don't worry. That's actually MJ. This takes place after that. This takes place
I
in
have
'97."
goosebumps just thinking
And it's
about
like-
this.
It is awesome, dude. I'm so happy. So now I have one more thing to throw at you guys. Well, now
Yeah,
a couple of things, but the next one is Morph. Can we talk about Morph?
I love
Because
them. They're great.
I love the idea. Think about this. This is the character with the least amount of dialogue on the whole series.
hmm
And I think it's on purpose, because the reason Morph is here, so we can see every single X-Men that we want to see, but it's not part of the plot. And that was just amazing.
I'm gonna be completely honest, and we can talk. We can spend some time on this. I hated Morph so much, so I want to hear you guys' perspective. Because one, they got Morph's powers wrong. In the original show, Morph's a shapeshifter, like Mystique. Not I can copy your abilities. And if you can copy their abilities, why aren't you just always the Hulk in battle? Why are we Psylocke? You know? Just be the Hulk. Nobody's stopping the Hulk.
I feel like I have an interesting answer to that.
See,
I think
Hit
I
me.
do.
and go, because then I'll go. You go.
Because
first.
one, I didn't even know Morph was a character to begin with. Like,
Yeah.
Boom.
this is my first introduction to Morph, and like,
Welcome.
never knew who they were, never knew what their power set was, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just like, oh, a mutant that can essentially, it seems to have similar powers to Rogue, where like, but this time they can also just switch into that person and whatnot. And I just assumed because Morph has a very, their personality is very interesting. I feel like when they're using, it seems to kind of match their personality a little bit.
Yeah.
And it seems like the best way that they can express themselves,
Yes.
especially in relation to them confessing their love for Wolverine. It seems like
Yo.
Morph's power set is the only way that they can really be free and like be like, oh, I can be the Hulk. All right, that Hulk smash, or like I can turn into Quicksilver. Boom, 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 boom. Like this is me. This is who I am. I don't necessarily know what to say, or
I can become the blob so
whatnot.
Logan can jump on me.
Yeah, and plus knowing their history and knowing that they
Crazy.
were also tortured, it's like, yeah, they have a lot to figure out. They have a lot of past trauma to work through and whatnot. And as of right now, this might be the most expressive way for Morph to morph and be whoever they're trying to be. So at least that's my answer. Again, I didn't even know Morph was in the original series. I legit thought, I was like, oh, interesting character. I like them. Don't know if they'll do more with the character, but I'm here for it.
You're not wrong, Adam. You're part of the league, brother.
Welcome.
Shout out to that
buddy.
book and movie.
That movie's good, bro. I don't care.
That should be a conversation we have one day where we just watch
It
old
sounds like
movies,
an unlimited chatter. Just
literally.
boiling over. But no, Morph is great. I
So
think
many ideas.
It's the thing with Morph is I'm not surprised that you said that, Mike, because I think I knew that answer. But at the same time, I think I feel what the writers and showrunners felt like. We don't care. We just want to we want to justify putting as many other X-Men that we can without having to explain their appearance, their appearance in this episode.
It's
And-
the
and
only
to me,
time
that
cameos
was
felt
so-
forced to me.
I was so happy.
I
It's
get
fine.
that. I understand. But
It
then
was
here's
so
where it gets
awesome.
interesting for me. Because since we get that whole
It's
cameo,
fan service done right, damn it.
yes. But then here's where my question comes into play. Like final episode, we see all the heroes. Like we see Daredevil just in a cafe with Cloak and Dagger, just doing anything.
Yo,
else.
Cloak and
Look at
Dagger, bro. Yes.
man.
That was awesome. I like that show,
such a
by the way.
throwback.
That live action show was pretty good. It's not perfect. But
I'm
I
gonna write
enjoyed the
down
2 seasons we
every
got.
time we mention an old show. I'm just gonna write down, hey, we should talk about it because I feel like at this point we mentioned Arrowverse.
Yo,
We've mentioned
Freeform had that one, bro.
they had that, and what was the other show by Brian
Runaways.
Cohen? Yes, that as well.
We will
No.
do Arrowverse when Superman and Lois comes out, because apparently that final season rocks.
Yes.
I'm down because that'll be the second like Arrowverse show I finished fully. Like I still haven't finished Flash, nor have I finished like Black Lightning and all this stuff.
I have
but,
to finish Supergirl. I have to finish Black Lightning.
and Legends of Tomorrow, but that's a conversation for later. But yeah, like I was saying, like since we had like all these cameos at the end of the episode and
Have to.
whatnot, my whole
Yeah.
question became, where is Bruce Banner in all of this? Like we've seen every other hero now pop up. We even seen King T'Chaka. I'm just like, where's this version of Bruce? What has he been up to this whole time now? And like it's unrelated, but I feel like every time we've
He's
seen a
in-
character,
He's in Brazil working in a soda pop company. No.
I'm trying to
And he
remember what
looks like
happened at the
Edward
end of Hulk,
Norton.
because Hulk had a show. It was
Mhm.
great, by the way. She-Hulk was in it. It was fun, but I'm trying to figure out what happened to Bruce. And that's the thing, because like even when Captain America shows up, my brain is like, I know this man got lost in time fighting the Red Skull. How did he get back here?
Mhm.
Well,
It's
remember, he comes back, or we find him in the Spider-Man show. Captain America's there.
Yeah, that's when he disappears, though, right? I'm pretty sure it's in Spider-Man. He and Red Skull like get lost in time
Because the
at
Red Skull
end of
does like
that.
the whole dimension
I can't
thing,
wait
and
to
they
watch
both
these
get
again.
lost.
Right.
Yes, because
There's so
Spider-Man
much
goes
happening.
to London, right? Spider-Man goes to
Right.
London and like fights the chameleon or whatever. You are right. I
It
guess
is
the answer
amazing
is
how much these
did they
shows
figure it out?
imprinted on me as a child. I guess, but it's like
He
I have not
figured it
watched
out.
that show. I have not watched that show in like 15 years. Why do I remember this like it was yesterday?
No, that's fair.
Because
As soon as
it's
the Iron
engraved in
Man
our
thing
soul.
popped up. Mm-hmm. As soon
Just
as Iron
like
Man popped up, I
water,
just started seeing
pain
it.
inside of Magneto. We remember.
Mhm.
I want to get back into the meat of the show, though. Magneto. I want to talk about Magneto. He's such an interesting character, and
So
this
great.
is the most invested I've been in Magneto outside of the books, right? Like, as much as I enjoyed a decent amount of the movies and Fassbender and McKellen's performances, I think the approach this time of seeing him try Xavier's way and Genosha happen, and it just like sets him on this path of
That
where
second
by the end of
genocide.
it, right? By the
He
end of it,
pulls to
I'm
Jennifer Lopez and goes, enough. And just
yeah,
does the thing to the world, bro.
and I'm just sitting here like, I can't even blame him at this point. After Genosha, like, you can't blame Magneto for being over it. What did you guys think about that character arc and knowing Xavier and Magneto's history, like seeing it all come to a head in this interpretation?
Brandon, go for it. Because
I have I don't know why, but I think the brilliance of, apart from the fact that like great shows that have the superhero element, right? And I think we talked a little bit about this when we talked about the beginning of Korra season 4, about finding her in the lowest of lows and her finding her way back to be the avatar that the world needs. we find our heroes in the farthest places trying to figure stuff out. And we also find someone that used to be a villain in a very different place trying something out. And because he is given that role of calling the X-Men my X-Men, we are allowed to see him in a different light. Because we are not allowed. It's funny because the way it's structured, we are not allowed to see him as a villain. He's just another character in the mix. He's given a spot in the intro as a hero. Like, that to me, it's brilliant storytelling because it forces us in a passive way to listen to him. He's not just ranting. He's expressing his or real concerns. He's expressing his mind. He's expressing his pain. And we're giving a window into that. And then when Genosha occurs and he goes back to the dark side, it's no longer, holy crap, Magneto's crazy. It's, holy crap, Magneto's not wrong in why he feels this way. Because the world has wronged him and failed him over and over and over and over again. So even though they find a way to restructure the show to its original concept, which is the X-Men against Magneto, it goes back to that original equation after everything that we see, right? We now care about the person that they're facing for the first time, in that deeply, you know, and it's great, and it's great because I think the only other piece of X-Men that I've experienced that does a good job with this is First Class, because it really spends the time to dig into who Eric Magnus Lencher is before he becomes the master of magnetism. By the way, corniest line, but
shout out to that
every
deep
time he says
vibrato as well.
yeah. And but yeah, like, and then the idea that the final battle against him is a conversation. You know what I mean? That to me is powerful because at the end of the day, we go back to the soap opera, right? We go back to the drama, to the human moments. He just wants someone not just to understand, but someone to do the right thing about it. You know what I mean? And his life, he's doing the only thing that he knows how to do, which is retaliate. That's all he knows how to do. And Charles is just trying to show him another way. I'm just glad that we were able to spend time with him, man, because you really care about, especially the whole thing with Rogue and everything like that. And how when we go into his mind, we start seeing how deeply he really felt about Rogue. Because when he was trying to find a way out, it was Rogue's voice that he would hear, like, to save him. You do see a little bit of Enchantress, or whatever her name was, and you see Black Widow, you see Quicksilver, his kids. So I don't know, man.
His daughter.
It's great.
Yeah.
Magneto's amazing.
At what point were y'all on board with Magneto? And I mean, like, what was the scene that like hit for you where you're like, okay, this is a version of Magneto's like
When he's trying to save the kids, bro.
Okay.
That's the scene, bro. To me, that's the scene. When he literally looks at the kids, and again, great storytelling. It was all set up. It was all set up at the sewers with the Morlocks, when he saves them, right? From the Friends of, by the way, Friends of Humanity. Not even funny. And then the same kid just hugging him. And he says, "Don't be afraid." Like, he knows that he's about to, and how cruel it was for Bastian to save him. Like, that just was crazy, bro. That was the moment that I was like, damn.
My moment is significantly earlier, and and yeah, it's the UN speech where it's like, that's because I was watching. It was funny because I was watching this with my mom. She was actually over when the premiere happened. So it's like, cool, we'll watch it. She's never seen the original series. She has seen the movies, like most people, I feel like, at this point. And so she was instantly like, you can't trust Magneto. He's clearly going to betray them. Like, this is not going to work, right? And it's like, him giving an honest effort is what won me over, because it could have easily he turned like, yeah, Magneto's gonna turn the X-Men into the Mutant Brotherhood, right? And like they're gonna have to defect and they're gonna have to break away from Magneto, and Scott and them are gonna have to fight him. Like that could have been the cliche worn out route that they went. But instead, they were smart enough to say, no, Eric is a reasonable adult and Charles was his best friend, his brother, maybe more at this point, the way they be talking to each other in this season. But he was like, I'm going to try this Charles's way, because that was his dying wish. As far as Eric's concerned, right? My best friend's dying wish was me to lead this team, even though, as the intro shows, they've been fighting each other for like 5 seasons. I'm gonna try and do the right thing. And what happens when he tries to do the right thing? Storm loses her powers. And even still, he tries to do it Charles's way. And that's the moment that won me over, where it's like, that could have been right then and there, the moment where he goes full on, this doesn't work, I hate all of you, back to my way. But he still kind of pushes through it a little bit. And then Genosha happens, where he's just like, okay, that's it, I'm done. Too many people have lost their power, too many people have died for no reason.
Yeah. Were you? Yeah. So great.
Yeah, it was interesting for me, because there were times where throughout the show, it's like, all right, when's Magneto's going to switch? When is he going to go back to? And I hate to use the word classic Magneto, but when are we going to go to? I guess more traditional. But for me, the moment that I really got the full scope of Magneto's arc was in the final episode, and it was the first conversation him and Xavier were having in World War II when we went to the past. And Magneto literally has the commentary about humanity is like, we fight over who's the best tribe. We fight over who has the best faith. We even fight over who's the best victim. And I was just like, yeah, this dude has humanity like exact. Like he has it written out exactly on how we respond to things. And then looking at where we are at that point in the show, it's just like, yeah, I don't like the thing Magneto was right, just it hit for me at that exact moment. I was just like, yeah, this dude lived a life of tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and has not found, well, or even you could say Rogue is that example of the joy and peace, but like he's just lived a life of turmoil and struggle since he was a kid. And it's just like, how do you to then like accept Magneto's or accept Xavier's way of teaching is like, all right, cool, I'm going to try this, and then it fails. It's just like, what do you do? How do you recover from that? How do you fight the good fight, essentially, and whatnot?
That's what
and
makes
like,
Genosha hurt so much too, though, right? Of like,
yeah,
he didn't even start this massive war that he was going to do at the end of the show. He's like, we're just going to have a haven for us to go. I'm going to make a place for mutants to be safe. And that still got attacked because of hatred. And yeah, that's the moment where it cemented it. For me, it was in the UN, in like episode 2 with Storm and all that. But it really cemented when Genosha fell. And they like, the show does an interesting thing of not introducing us to Bastion, right, which is the main villain technically of the season, because they want it to feel like a random attack. They want it to feel like the universe just fell apart out of nowhere. Speaking to Jake again, I'm sorry to keep referencing that, but like he said that being a millennial, they grew up through 9/11, COVID, war, right? And so it's like anything can happen at any day that changes your life forever. And that's what Genosha was, of like a hateful thing happened, and we lost Gambit and we lost everything. All those kids that Brandon was just referencing died. And how much more can Magneto take before he's just over it? And that was one of the final straws, right?
And then that it continues after that. Because I'm glad you mentioned Bastion. Because his final words before he dies, it's just like humanity will rather kill us than have people like us be born or be a part of their society. I'm just like, y'all are, y'all are, y'all are just, we just keep proving Magneto's honest and like very accurate like perspective of humanity because like it just keeps happening. Even the villain that we're all here to really see the X-Men take down and and eventually get revenge and stop the massacre he wants to continue. It's just like even our main villain, our hidden villain, has a similar mindset to Magneto. It's just like, how do you stop this tragedy from happening? Even when we have multiple villain types, or I feel like at this point we can say Magneto's kind of an anti-hero a little bit, depending on how you look at the character.
He's always been. I
Okay.
think that's how he's always seen himself more than anything.
Okay.
How did you guys like the misdirect? Because for the longest time we were told that the villain was Sinister, and it wasn't Sinister.
So that kind of comes back to them adapting a million comic book arcs this season to me. Because Sinister was the villain of the Madeline Pryor story, right? And the Jean clone. But yeah, everything after this, like that's the thing. That's one knock I will give the show. Like, it throws so much at you, and I was able to keep up with it, but it doesn't let me digest everything the way I probably would want to. I feel like clone Jean Grey and Madeline having to reconcile with that could have been half the season. Instead, it was like a 2-episode arc. So I feel like revealing Bastion to be the villain wouldn't have been a good thing. Like, just leave, like, because Sinister is the villain. He kind of is the villain like the first 3 episodes. Bastion doesn't really become prevalent until like episode 8.
True.
So
until the Prime,
I think
the first Sentinel Prime comes around. Yeah.
Right, until Rogue does her thing in that one episode. It's not until then where we're like, oh, there's other machinations going on. Because I feel like that also would have helped Mike's concerns with Morph, since Morph even mentioned, like, oh, I believe he did. I believe they did, right? The one who tortured Morph, was it?
It was Sinister. Yeah.
It was Sinister? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even Morph mentions that they were a victim of Sinister's doings and all that stuff. And then I feel like it could have helped a lot more with our other X-Men characters that didn't get much shine this season.
Morph is, I'm going to explain it. I know you guys didn't watch X-Men the Animated Series, so I'm going to take the time to kind of break it down a little bit as best I can. Morph is introduced in the first episode of X-Men the Animated Series, and dies, apparently, to Mr. Sinister, whoever they're fighting in that first episode. And that's kind of the point of, like, an X-Man died, tragedy, that hurts, Jubilee's on the team now. That's kind of the extent of Morph's existence in the X-Men universe. So for Morph to come back in this show, I also need like a little bit more explanation. That's why it kind of felt pointless to me, because like you bring this interesting character
wasn't
back.
Morph revived at some point in the original animated series?
Yeah, but like never became like a full-on member of the team, unless it was in like the last season. I'm just blanking it out. But I kind of want to focus a little, like if we're going to do that and put Morph in the intro as like a proper member of the X-Men, I kind of want to do that. Jamie's fact checking here. Came back towards the end of the original series. Thank you, because I did not rewatch it, so I appreciate the help there. But yeah, if you're going to do that, do more with Morph. Even the relationship with Wolverine doesn't bother me. I don't have any connection to it because we don't do anything with it. Like confessing your love to Logan in the last episode, and Bo DeMeo confirmed that was like a legit thing. It's not just a fan theory. That was like a romantic confession. I need more of that throughout the rest of the show instead of jokes, cameo, jokes, cameo, heartfelt moment. You know? That's where Morph kind of just didn't click for me, because like, what purpose do you serve on this team? If I need jokes, I go to Jubilee for that.
X-Men 97, Season 2, Morphin' Time.
Wow.
That's what we need.
You better get a morpher
More
at that point.
morphin.
You can make one. You can make a morpher. Just give me that.
Cue the music. No, but this season was great. What do you guys want to see going forward? I guess before we close things out, because
So before
at the
before
end of
we
this, go ahead.
no, before we go into what we want to see next, I need to justify One for All here.
Okay.
How did you guys like the embers of the Phoenix? Because that's what it was. It was a low key.
I hate you so much.
It was the low key. It was
Break
a
this down
low
for me.
key-
Because
it
I'm
was a
literally
low-key
rewatching My Hero.
Deus Ex Machina, but at the same time, it was either an intentional or unintentional hat tip to My Hero Academia. So the wielders of One for All in My Hero, once they give the quirk to someone else, within them lies the flickering embers of the power provided to them by One for
The
All.
last remnants
Which
of the
is-
quirk. Yeah.
Right, which is why All Might was able to take down One for One at the end of season 3 when he does his United States of Smash and he goes to jail to Tartarus. He used the last
for One, not All
little
Might.
ember. What was that?
I said All for One, not All Might. You just said he goes to jail. All Might did not go to jail. To be
Oh no,
clear.
you went to visit. No, yeah.
He
So
did.
so All Might takes down All for One. He goes to jail by using the last little embers of what was left over of One for All, which is the same thing that occurred that allowed Jean to tap into the Phoenix because she doesn't have the Phoenix Force. It's gone. But little embers were pulling her back into life. So she was able to summon the Phoenix Force powers one last time to save the day and at least stop the first form of the final boss. Actually, the second form of the final boss, because then he became the final boss and went to space.
Can we talk about how petty Cable is at the end of this show, by the way? This 55-year-old man, like, you're not my mom. Got me so much.
I mean, at this point,
But then she comes back as the Phoenix. She goes, "My mom." But yes, the embers. I know you like that, Mike. I know you like that.
Basically, to make it more nerdy, he had a little bit of green chaos energy left in him. My Power Ranger fans will know what that means, but if just to go full circle, like
Yes.
if you're an X-Men, My Hero, and Power Rangers fan, you will get the connection to all three of those.
Boom.
If you are that nerdy, make sure you like, subscribe, so you don't miss more.
You have
of
to
the
do it.
Chatter After Unlimited. If you somehow fell into the demographic that understood the trifecta of references that just happened, this is the channel for you, man. I don't know.
This is your home. Welcome
Yes.
to the Shatter After Unlimited School of Gifted Youngsters.
This
Your
is our
hero,
quirk, people.
Academia.
Your hero.
Our quirk is knowledge that has no connection. We will find a way to connect it. Just wait till the time we start connecting RRR to a bunch of things. We'll get there eventually.
Cliff, you made a La La Land connection in this episode. That I don't know if anything will ever top that. Honestly,
That is
Getting La La
top
Land
tier,
into
bro.
X-Men is
Yes.
insane.
Yes.
That's literally just
so
how my
much.
brain works. Like I will watch
Someone
replays.
somewhere
That's
is
it.
playing Mia and Sebastian Melody as Remy is running that bike upward. Like someone is putting that to the background.
That actually would be pretty great to see. Not gonna lie.
See,
Dun, 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 dun. And it's just
yes. And him
it's
just
just Gambit just like hanging up and like, all right, this is my last move. This is for everybody.
You got to transpose it enough to where it sounds like Mia and Zeb's theme, but also still sound like the X-Men theme. Because they're close enough to where you can make it work.
stop it.
This is very true.
Stop this brilliance. Stop it.
I feel like we could just do
So-
that ourselves.
So
We
good.
probably could.
Um,
I might do this by the end of the week. But X-Men
Future.
Season 2 already locked in. They were already in production in September, according to Rogue's voice actress. She recorded lines for Season 2.
Isn't it?
Last summer.
Are they doing 2 and 3 back to back supposedly?
Probably. I would assume. At
I know
the
we're
end
getting
of this, there was
3. I don't know if they did 3 yet.
yeah. Uh, Not sponsored. Collider.com had a wonderful Easter eggs article. And one thing that they've noticed that I missed was that Forge is trying to build a new team of X-Men because, as you know, they've been
He's trying
scattered
to build
throughout
what?
space and time. A new
He's
team
trying to
of
what?
X-Men.
Nice.
Yeah.
The new
Shout out to
mutants.
Forge and Bishop just popping back up. Be like, hey, I wasn't there, but I'm back now. I'm taking my days off. All right, this is between
What's
y'all.
up, bro?
I'm dipping.
I,
I love that.
I
He was
love that
called into
Bishop
work.
is just like,
He got that call. Hey, bro, we need some help. Can you come in for a couple
Nope,
hours?
it's my day off. Mm.
yeah, I love that Forge is like, I don't know you, and Bishop's like, don't worry, you will. And he just makes himself at home. And Forge doesn't even fight him over it. It's just like, all right. No, but Forge is making a new team of X-Men, and the list was like Archangel, Iceman, Kitty Pryde, which gets me very
Iceman
excited.
says off-world. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Mm.
What is that about? I don't know. Maybe he's hanging out with Spider-Man and Firestar. Who knows?
Yo,
We're going that deep. We're going that deep.
amazing friends, bro.
Amazing
friends. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Super
Spider-Man.
deep cut. Not Japanese Spider-Man.
That's awesome. Japanese
No,
Spider-Man with a Megazord.
My question for you guys is: are there any mutants you want to see pop up next season, or any potential storylines that you want to see happen? I know you're not too familiar with X-Men, but
So
anything you
I'm
guys
gonna
wanna
make
see?
this simple. I don't want to say what I want to see because I already find crazy interesting and intriguing where they left it off. I just want to
Okay.
see that. I have so much faith in the writers now that I just want to see what they do with this because I know they've dealt with Apocalypse in the original series. So I want to see what's going to be different this time. I know we saw that Temple of Apocalypse in the moon. So that was very interesting. So I'm glad that they showed that off. And also, I don't recall when was the last time that we saw modern X-Men interact with Esteban Noor at that stage of his life. And I want to see what happens with that. So because it's interesting because we know for a fact that he's already been infected by the techno virus or enhancement that he has because the face is different. Because I know that that's when his face becomes that type with the lines on his face. But yeah. And I like the fact that we see grown up Apocalypse in the present. So I like the idea that we're not going to have 2 but 3 different timelines. And all of them are going to be and Apocalypse is going to be the main connecting tissue between all 3. So I want to see how that plays out. So I just want to see that.
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna piggyback. Oh, more Storm or yes. Mm-hmm. More Storm
100%.
or Riot.
Bring Stella back.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback because I'm a big Apocalypse fan. I don't know anything about the character outside of them being the first mutant, and that's all the lore. Like, it's the most interesting thing for me, and I've always wanted to see just. Oh,
He's
I
always
know.
been weird.
Like,
He's
like-
like a shapeshifter, and then he can create. It's always been weird to me.
I
he's
just
one for
love
all.
Cliff starting off
He's got
with.
everything.
I
know
Cliff
nothing
starting
of
off
this
with
person.
he's my favorite. I love this character. Also, I know nothing about him. And it's like that's comics for you, baby.
Literally, no, because like so like real quick breakdown is just in terms of X-Men. I've barely read that many comics. Like, I've only read like House of M, but just through osmosis of having conversations with other people about
House of M
X-Men,
is supposed to be very good. I've heard.
it's a very good story. I actually should go back and read it, but yeah, through osmosis, I've just heard so much about Apocalypse, and I just dig the idea of like, oh, this character was the first mutant, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to know, like, what is that like? How does that reverberate? Like, what is the lineage and all that stuff, et cetera, and whatnot. So, literally, when he popped, I was just like, yes, finally, this is the moment where I feel like I can actually get a great Apocalypse arc. Like, I don't have to deal with the Oscar Isaac short Apocalypse. I'm like, I want tall, beefy, muscular king. Like that's what I want. I want to see what they do with this. But besides that, I really want to
Go
see
watch
more.
Age of Apocalypse on Disney Plus.
Oh, I saw it. Oh, or you mean the episodes or the movie?
Yeah, the show.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was about to say I've seen.
Age of
I don't know if I need
Apocalypse
to
is
go
what
through
a whole
Fox
is
X-Men
it a
again.
whole season or half of it?
Uh, X-Men was always very good about just doing individual arcs. So if you want to jump in and watch Apocalypse, or you want to jump in and watch Days of Future Past, just watch the episodes called Days of Future Past Part 1, 2, and 3, and then you're done. You can jump in and out. It's cool.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. It's like Power Rangers. I gotta
Yeah.
start making references. Wow.
Hey
But,
man, you speak out of the heart. It's all good.
But
Now I'm
yeah.
gonna say this. Can we?
mhm.
Okay, go. Finish your thoughts.
Oh no, yeah. I was just gonna say real quick. I really would like to see more of Nightcrawler, and him and Iceman are my two favorite X-Men characters. I really love the different aspects of them. I also I love that Iceman could be an Omega level mutant, and I also love that Nightcrawler has this constant not struggle, but this constant evaluation of his faith in relation to X-Men stories. Especially since we have Daredevil and context, is like I want to see more of what
Yes.
Nightcrawler goes through as a character, and just what his life is like in relation, but also outside of it. Like how often does that affect his everyday life and all that stuff. But yeah, I just want more. I just want more story, more great storytelling, and as long as y'all give me great storytelling, I will show up every Tuesday. I will be there pretty much.
I don't know why, but I'm waiting for that episode. Frank Castle, Mark Murdoch, and Kurt Wagner walk into a bar, and it's just.
Kitty Pryde has to be there too, I guess.
They all just get drunk and just Nightcrawler.
She's
just
Jewish. If you guys did not realize this.
Oh, okay. I did not know.
I did not. Okay, fair.
Yeah, I noticed that fell on deaf ears, so I had to clarify. I got to get y'all up to speed on X-Men very soon.
It's gonna happen.
It's the only Marvel thing I care about.
X-Men. Can we talk? And as we get ready to close, can we talk about how awesome the intros were by adding little bits of the old show into the new show?
And how they replaced Gambit with Nightcrawler.
And it was and it was constantly changed depending on the episode. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I also want to say this. I like the fact that I don't know who the actor is that voiced Cable on this show, but I really appreciate it because I don't know if it's the same one as the 97, but either Josh Brolin did a Cable 97 impersonation, but this guy reminded me a lot of Josh Brolin's voice doing Cable. So that's who he was. That is awesome.
Sick.
Oh, okay.
I love the intro. The music was great. I love the interpolation of the music. We could spend another half hour talking about that, so I'll keep it brief. But I love how the score is the X-Men theme. We just change it up for the specific situations. For a funeral, it's very somber. For the intro, it's very Saturday morning cartoon in your face. Then we get an epic orchestral version of it. I just love how they were able to have so many different variations of the same song. Also,
it's classic.
Nightcrawler and Rogue are related.
Yes, they're Mystique's kids. It's always been.
That's just a thing. That so many people were just like, wait, what the heck?
Yes,
it's that was a
they're
thing.
Brother and sister. They've always been a thing.
It's Rogue. Mystique adopted Rogue, right?
No.
From what I understand,
no. Rogue and Kurt are both his son and daughter. Her sons and daughter. Yeah, they're both Mystique's kids.
Okay.
Yes, that's always.
I have so much backlog to look up. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
This is just the first.
How she just abandoned him like
anything.
That?
No, she did because he was. I don't know. But yeah.
Wow. See, this just makes me want to understand Nightcrawler more. I'm just
and it's funny because they never acknowledged it in the movies, and everybody knew at that point. So
Mhm.
What's crazy is that they made him look so like they changed how Mystique looks very much so in those movies, but they made Nightcrawler look like her, and they didn't do anything with it.
yes,
It's like,
agreed.
all right,
And then Azazel's right there, and
Oh,
just
by
like,
the way,
"Oh,
Alan
what are you
Cummings
doing?"
as Nightcrawler is one of the best interpretations of that character ever. X-Men 2 X2
yeah.
X-Men United, so good always.
When I tell you, I've been wanting a quick 12-issue mini with Nightcrawler so bad. Like,
Okay, so Rogue is not Mystique's mom? I thought she was.
wait, is
I
Graydon
don't.
Creed? That's the leader of the Friends of
We're
Humanity,
being.
right?
I don't know who Graydon Creed is, but I guess one day I'll know.
Grady and Creed's father is also Sabretooth, if I'm not mistaken. So the X-Men are
Oh, yeah.
messy. That's what we need to establish. And
Okay,
Rogue
so
stopped it.
yeah, Graydon's the founder of Friends of Humanity. That's disgusting. But okay. I have so much X-Men lore to look up. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
See,
Just go watch
I
the
love this
cartoon,
show.
guys. If
Man.
I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna go watch it, and
Go
then we're
watch
gonna come back and talk about it again.
this will be our
We're gonna have to
off-season
Yes,
episode, where
yes,
it's like we just go back and watch
yes.
X-Men until before season 2 comes out.
Yes.
That'll be fun. I didn't revisit it going into this one. I wanted to go into this fresh, kind of like Brandon, you were talking off screen. Like he read Dune, and then you started watching Dune, and that kind of affected your experience a little bit. It's like I didn't want that to happen to me. Where it's like I don't want to be thinking about the other thing. I kind of want to just experience this. But now I'm ready to go back and watch X-Men the animated series.
Yes.
Because X-Men 97 is fantastic. To answer Spirit Heroes' earlier question of is this the best X-Men adaptation we've had? Yeah, I would say so by far.
Yes. Yes.
I would also say this is the best Marvel thing we've had since Endgame. I think I can comfortably say that. Sorry, Spider-Man. I love No Way Home, but
Okay,
top.
I want to toss in another Marvel thing. It's not necessarily MCU, but like, and it's not really a comparison. It's just like in terms of like, both of these things have been great at storytelling. X-Men 97 or Spider-Verse.
Ooh, larger sample size for 97. I might go 97. I love Spider-Verse. And I'll get.
Because
I'm
there's
not
about
gonna
things
spend
with
too much
legacy
time on
here
it.
and whatnot now.
Yeah. Spider-Verse, I love Spider-Verse. My issue with Spider-Verse is that I don't think it does a great job of telling a Miles Morales story. Miles Morales is constantly in the first movie, he has to live up to Peter Parker's legacy, right? And we do have the Prowler and him fighting the Kingpin. That's great. But in the second one, his like having to bring in Miguel O'Hara and bring in Peter Parker again, and like sharing, kind of being dual protagonists with Gwen. I don't think it does a great job of making Miles an interesting character. He's a cool character, and they're great movies, but like walking out of those, I don't know if I ever learn a lot about Miles Morales the person. Whereas X-Men, I feel like from episode 1, I know who Scott Summers is. I understand Aurora. I understand Rogue. You know, Wolverine doesn't get his own storyline, but like we get who Wolverine is. He's the best at what he does. Always has been. Always will be.
Healing.
Right. So I think for me, X-Men, I think I like overall, I think I enjoy Spider-Man more. But I think story-wise, I appreciate what X-Men does a bit better because it's very character focused. Whereas Spider-Man is telling a great Spider-Man story, but not a great Miles Morales story.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? I'm just curious because it's just that comment of just like, is it the best Marvel thing? I'm like, I
My
agree with you, but
choice
also
is no choice. I like both. I love
That's a
both.
cop out. That's a
I
cop out.
mean,
Cop
No, I
out.
See,
mean-
I'm Switzerland here.
shut up. No, I'm gonna go with 97 for all the reasons that Mike mentioned, but more importantly because it's 97 does a better job in giving agency to every single character on screen. Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse does a great job in wetting their feet in every little bit of Spider-Man lore there exists, while also trying to stick to one narrative, which is the narrative of the Spider-Verse movies, not the Miles Morales. Like for example, a better like Spider-Man Miles Morales, the game does a better job in giving us a Miles Morales story than the Spider-Verse movies, and I think that's to the point that Mike is making.
Yeah, just think about like we don't see Genki for more than a second, right?
Right.
We know of his parents, but like, what do we really know about Miles, the human being? You know?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of like, you're making a great movie. Don't get me wrong. I still give those perfect 5 out of 5s. But
Yeah.
if we're
They're
trying
great
to make
Spider-Man lore
if,
movies, but they're not
right,
Miles
it becomes
Morales
very
movies.
granular of like,
Yeah.
that's always going to be kind of a sticking point to me.
Those movies are more about Spider-Man, not about the X-Men.
Right.
The X-Men is all about the characters behind those masks. Because interestingly enough, the whole point about the X-Men is that they come up with names for themselves because that's who they are. You know what I mean? Them giving themselves a name, it's part of their accepting of their identity and their powers. So it's like a rite of passage for mutants to come up with their names. It's not as much as, hey,
Where
it's my
Miles is
alter
kind of
ego.
an accident almost.
Right, it's not exactly. It's not mutant liberation. Interesting. Yes, it's not as much as I'm going to become Batman and Bruce Wayne's going to say, this is who I am. I've always been Sunspot. I'm accepting who I am. Which again, we see Roberto DaCosta doing at the end on the finale. It's like the name's Sunspot, which again was great. But yeah, I'm gonna go 97 too, because it does the things that I don't want to say we prefer, but it does the hardest things that you can do in a story very, very well, if not perfect.
Yeah. What about you, Cliff? What's your answer?
Honestly, I didn't really have an answer, and I know that's funny to say after all this. No, because
my
when
choice
the comments,
is no choice.
I just, to be honest, I'd have to go back and watch Spider-Verse 1 and 2 again.
Oh, have
So
any
I'm
of you
gonna
guys seen
bookmark it.
the short film? I haven't seen it.
That
Yeah,
did come out, didn't it?
How is it?
It's really good. I actually really enjoyed it. I love the whole thing behind it about it being for charity and focusing on Miles' mental health, and I love that that's the angle, because that's kind of you don't need to make an entire movie about Miles' mental health. It's not what I'm trying to say, but like actually taking a second to look at Miles the person as opposed to Miles the hero, which kind of goes back to what we've been saying this entire time about how X-Men balances that, was very interesting and frightening, and I found it very captivating. It's like 7 minutes long. It's on YouTube. It's for the Kevin Love Foundation, so go check that out. Maybe I can get that linked in the description here. But yeah, if you guys, I think you guys would enjoy it. It was really good. But yeah, did we do the thing?
I think we've done the thing.
We did.
We did the thing. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give us a like, subscribe so you don't miss a thing on the Chatter After, the Chatter After Live, the Chatter After Unlimited, whatever we go by. We're going to be here talking all things in the world of movies, comics, TV, whatever we want to talk about. The Bear's coming back soon. Maybe we'll get into that. I don't know if I will be mentally ready for the Bear, because it gets me every single time. But I'll do my dang best.
Like X-Men 97 just emotionally drained us. Do we need to do it again a month from now?
Yeah, the Bear's gonna be
I
crazy.
need to cry again.
No, and they're dropping all episodes, I believe, right? They're dropping all the episodes the same day.
That's how they do it every season, yeah. Binge model. It's gonna be fun, so make sure you stick around for that. Guys, let us know in the comments what you think about X-Men 97. What should get the X-Men 97 treatment? Like, is there a show that you want to go back to and say, let's pull you into modern day with new voices, the voices of the people who grew up watching it. Spider-Man would be great. Batman the Animated Series would have been cool. We can't touch that anymore for unfortunate reasons, but Ninja Turtles would rock. I never got to say, I will add, we got to go to Japan, right? We sent Wolverine to Japan, right? That's what we did, right? Please tell me that's what we did. Because we don't know where Wolverine went. I need him to be in
We don't know
Japan.
where Wolverine and we don't know where Morph is. So we
No.
know that Jubilee and Sunspot are with Forge, or should be.
Yeah,
I would
present
assume.
day. 97.
Present day. But yeah, we haven't seen Wolverine and we haven't seen Morph. Morph will love to become a geisha. I'm just just walking around with Wolverine as a samurai.
I tell you, I am confident to say that Storm is in Wakanda because you've got to do that. That's one thing I want them to do is I want them to tackle more modern storylines.
We didn't see a queen.
'cause
All
of
we
course-
saw was Adora Milaje.
Yeah.
Also,
and
we
King
didn't see
T'Chaka.
T'Challa either.
No, we saw T'Chaka. That is T'Chaka. T'Challa's father. The one that's currently
Yeah.
in Wakanda. But we don't see the queen. We don't see Ramunda. So I mean
It'll be
give me-
interesting. So, yeah.
Okay,
the
okay.
Adventures
Jamie's
of-
losing control right now. Give me my
I'm with Jamie.
I'm
Yes.
with Jamie too. I mean, I've been a Storm stan before it was cool, y'all. Like, come on now, get her a solo movie, get her a solo series. I don't care. Her comic book looks great. I wanted to get into this right quick: Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix and Rise of Apocalypse in 2 timelines. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't like if they lead up to Days of Future Past. That'll be crazy, especially if they are introducing Kitty Pryde, who is, of course, a major player in Days of Future Past. So I'm fascinated to see where they go in the future. But we're gonna have to wait, unfortunately, a very long time. But
And real quick, here's the thing. I don't mind waiting. Take the time. Do what you need to. I will show up. It does not matter. We'll be there.
Hey, we got stuff to watch in the meantime because there's 5 seasons of 97?
Mhm.
yup. Do we need to come
So
back
we
and review
got
each
stuff to
season?
eat.
50-11 seasons of X-Men. Shout out to my Asher fans.
Heck yeah. It's going to be so much fun, guys. In the words of Aaron Burr, we're willing to wait for it. Until next time, stay mutant, stay proud. Peace out.
Peace.